What's the scariest thing that's ever woken you up during the middle of the night? A poster falling down from the wall. I'm pretty sure my neighbors heard my scream. Same here. Except it was framed artwork that was just above my pillow, so I was once clobbered awake by that. My dog barking because cops were banging on the doors and windows of our Airbnb, flashing their lights into each and every room. Called 911 and she told us to not answer the door because she doesn't see cops in our area. Yup. Holy crap. That's terrifying. Smart move on calling the cops. My cat howling at another cat through a screen in the door. Sounded like a demon. For me it wasn't the middle of the night but dinner. My cat screamed like she was getting tortured because another cat was in my parents' yard. I knocked over my chair because I got up so fast. Once I woke up because I heard music playing from the kitchen and I thought maybe mum forgot to turn the radio off. I went through the dark hallway to the kitchen to turn the radio off, but when I was standing in the dark kitchen there was no music playing. Everything was as quiet as always at 3 AM. There's an oldish post on Tumblr about someone who kept hearing carnival music in their apartment but could never find the source. Turns out that they were having audio hallucinations. My sister had an all-white clown doll that hung from the ceiling on a little swing. In the summertime, we slept with our doors and windows open to get the cool air in. When I woke up one night hearing some tapping against her window down the hall, if I sat up in bed and looked down the hall, and I could see into the front of her bedroom. So I did. And I see the Seth King clown swinging back and forth against her window, backlit by the street lamp, but clearly staring directly into my soul like it was all it desired in this world. I didn't sleep well that summer. I woke up with chunks of teeth in my mouth and severe abdominal pain, probably swallowed some tooth. Then I looked across the room and there was a pool of blood on the opposite side of the room. After quickly spitting out the rest of the teeth bits, I went to the bathroom and was shocked to see my entire face was bleeding. But from a deep cut in my chin and not from my missing tooth. I realized that I had sleepwalked. Then decided to fall asleep while standing on the other side of the room and did a belly flop straight on the floor. And then somehow after all of that, got up again and walked back into bed and fell asleep for a few more hours. I had to get a new tooth from a student doctor that I've never gotten fixed. I also ended super gluing my busted chin together because I couldn't afford stitches. I was drifting off and was already dreaming, but it seemed I was still awake because I was dreaming of myself in bed in my room. But in my dream I was awake. I dreamt some people or person swung through the bedroom door and ran towards me and in an instant and hit me with all their might with some heavy object. I shook awake. It was a similar feeling when you may startle yourself awake because it seems like you're falling. It took a moment for my brain to tell me I was alone. And it was just a dream. It was so strange. Exhilarating. Scary. Never had a dream like it since. The sound of my front door handle jiggling and the door being opened. My dog launched off the bed and slammed into the door while snarling. He's never acted like that. I called him back to me because I knew it was my roommate coming home. Roommate came out of his room and asked what was going on. Apparently he'd forgotten to lock the front door. My children. I love them more than anything. But they are some sneaky moffers and they wake you up in a way so gentle that you don't realize it. Then you open your eyes and they are 3 inches from your face. Like good morning daddy. It's 4 AM. Wouldn't change it for the world. It turned out to be funny. Someone was trying loudly to break into a car just outside my ground floor bedroom window that faced a large parking lot in an apartment complex. He was trying to smash the windows and wasn't strong enough. And was yelling a lot. I called the police. I heard every word they said when they showed up. It turned out that he was trying to break into his own car because he was too drunk to find his own keys in his own pocket. My parents visited my wife and I, and since we didn't have 2 bedrooms, we let them stay in our bedroom. But we have 2 cats and they can open the bedroom door if it isn't locked by key. We told them to remember to close it. Sometime at night I hear a scream followed by cat Come to find out that my mom went to use the bathroom but forgot to lock the bedroom door afterwards, and my dad was greeted by my cat's face staring at his. Honestly, was probably scarier for my cat, who was expecting to see me instead. IO. BF was out of town and I heard a voice in the middle of the night. My dogs woke up and barked too. Heard the voice again, sounded like a British woman. Grabbed the gun and started lurking the house like WTFFFFFFFFFF. Full stop. Full stop. It was my carbon monoxide detector that apparently talks to tell me the battery was low. But it scared the shit out of me for a few minutes. Help, help, I'm being raped. My roommates and I look at each other, unsure of what's happening. Screaming keeps happening. We rush outside. Turned out to be a drunk crazy woman strutting down the busy road next to our place, being followed by her BF who was frazzled. Talked to him. Turns out he was one of the neighbors down the street and he was super distressed. Apparently she did this a lot when she drank and he was trying to just keep her out of traffic, bring her home. She wasn't of a sound state of mind and clearly was not fleeing someone pursuing her to pay her. Just screaming that so he'd stop following her, trying to keep her out of traffic. What a mess. I had an industrial size rat dying from rat poison come through a panel in my closet and up into bed with me at 2 AM. My roommate screamed directly into my face at 1 AM. You best know I instinctively slapped that bastard. My dog decided to hop onto our piano and started walking along the keys in the middle of the night. Maybe your dog was a cat in its past life. I heard someone quietly trying my front doorknob late at night. I wasn't quite asleep yet. I checked with my roommate later, and it wasn't them. It happened once or twice more, but I never got to the door quickly enough to see who it was through the peephole. Nothing ever came of it, and I live somewhere else now. Tornado siren. In the Midwest they test them once a month and you get used to it. But holy hell, when it goes off at 3 AM your subconscious mind dumps adrenaline into you. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Like literally 29-year-old about to have my wife call an ambulance. New guy at work. He was new to the Midwest. It's 10 AM on the dot. First Tuesday of the month. Sirens start going off. He's freaking out. And none of us even look up. Had a great laugh about it once we explained that it was the monthly drill. He had never heard one before. I had a large camel spider run over my face at about 3 AM. That was not a pleasant sensation. Those fuckers are fast as shit and will follow your shadow for hours if they can. The night I watched the movie The Conjuring, I woke up to my bed shaking and all the clothes hanging in my closet rattling like crazy. Took me quite some time to realize it was an earthquake and not the devil come visiting. When I was in my final year at high school, I had trouble sleeping at night with my final exams approaching. I think I dozed off for a bit and suddenly woke up to see a person's face staring in through my window grill. I was in such a panic I literally couldn't move or scream. Luckily he saw me wake up and escaped. I woke up and heard someone walking outside my bedroom window. The window was open and there were leaves on the ground. I got up and put my back against the wall next to the window. I heard a very distinct human walking sound getting closer and closer. I was pooping my pants at this point. They were now very close and I could see out the window but I could not see them. I was pressed against the wall as the footsteps got closer and closer. Then the footsteps got quieter as the being got farther away. It took every nerve in my being to look out that window and nothing. I went outside and looked back there. Baseball bats in hand and saw a very large possum. No scary criminal. A shadow person from a sleep paralysis episode. I have had sleep paralysis twice. I never see anything. But I know if I could just move a bit I would be able to see something standing in the doorway. Worst was the first time. My daughter who was 3 at the time is in bed with me. And I feel completely paralyzed and unable to protect her. It was horrendous. I don't believe in anything supernatural. But obviously my mind was playing tricks on me at the time. The extremely realistic feeling of the bare hand grabbing my foot which made me wake up instantly only to realize it was somehow a dream. This reminded me of the time I was lying on my arm so long it went numb. And then I touched it with my other hand and thought it was someone else's arm in the bed with me. That was a startle. I don't know if it counts, but we were in the field in Camp Pendleton, CA, and sleeping in just our mummy bags under the stars, and I woke up in the night for whatever reason and my eyes focused on the next guy over in our circle who had one of the largest spiders I've ever seen in the wild sitting on his forehead. Maybe getting warm or something. Freaked me the FCK out. I flicked it off of him and zipped my bag all the way up so there was just the breathing hole and used my boonie cover to plug that and just breathed through the little vents. New moms, especially breastfeeding moms, might know this one. Waking up with full, painful boobs, glancing at the time, and realizing with horror that it's 4:00 AM and the baby has missed 2 feedings. OMG, is he dead? Asterisk. Then you run into the baby's room with your heart in your throat. Turn on the light. And see that cute little jerk just snoozing away. All swaddled up. Most immense terror and relief ever. My first tornado. Woke and listened carefully and asked the wife, is that rain or wind? Just then both of our phones started beeping alerts and that put us in motion. In hindsight we reacted about a minute later than we should have. Got lucky and it contacted the ground about a mile past us. My helium balloon floating next to my bed. Got scarred for life. Fucking Pennywise. My huge poster of Angel from Buffy detaching itself from the wall behind above my head and descending onto my face. I punched a hole through it. Sorry. Angel, hahaha. They do that billowy fall from the top like carpet from Aladdin bowing down. My wife and I were separated and I was sleeping in the basement apartment of our home. She woke me in the middle of the night to come upstairs. There in the kitchen was an intruder sitting calmly at the table. My wife left me alone with this person at 3 AM. I was shaking, scared that this person would snap and get violent. Turns out he was stoned out of his mind and my wife had forgotten to lock the front door. She had left to call the police. I found out later that she had found him in my son's room. There aren't many things scarier than finding a stranger in your house in the middle of the night. The shadow of a person next to the bed. My first and last night terror. I hope it is your last. Those sound terrifying. Probably my fairy lights turning on with a battery missing. Back when I was in the military, went to bed after drinking, forgot to lock my door. Woke up to someone sitting in my chair watching TV. Turns out he'd been drinking too and thought he was in his room. Seems like that happens too often. Except luckily your guy didn't piss on everything. A flying cockroach. Before then I didn't know they could fly. A fox making the scariest FCK noise foxes make. Literally thought that there was gonna be zombies outside. Was so scared I wouldn't even go check with my ex what the hell it was. When I was 18 I'd broken my leg. And it was non-weight bearing, so I was sleeping on the sofa downstairs. Woke up to a guy climbing in the window directly over my head. I'd obviously left the window open a crack and he'd seen an opportunity. To be honest, as scared as I was, I'm fairly sure I scared the shit out of him too as he screamed and ran away after I hit him with my crutch. My snake farted so loud and harshly that he knocked himself off a branch. And the poo stuck to the other side of the glass. The noise it made in the dark middle of the night was horrifying. All the time that my rat got out of his cage and decided to crawl onto my face for kisses. Some creepy drunk guy harassing a girl walking home from the local festival. She kept telling him to leave her alone. And he was insisting on sleeping with her and getting angrier every time she said she wasn't interested. I live in a tiny ass town. So it's not really a common thing for me to hear after dark. Gave me chills and a lump in my stomach. I was 13 at the time. As far as I could tell, the cops got called at the gas station up the road where they were headed. I hope she ended up okay. The worst was when the neighbor boy, 9yo, came banging on our door and ringing the doorbell at 1 AM. His mom and stepdad were fighting. Stepdad hit mom and had her on the ground with his hands around her neck trying to choke her. We've never had to call 911 before that night. This poor little boy had his 2-year-old sister in his arms with a completely dazed look on his face, while my mom was on the phone with 911. I sat the boy down and made sure to tell him that he was incredibly brave and no matter what anyone tells him, he did the right thing by coming here. Even sadder is they had just moved here from across the country that week and he knew no one. Feverish hallucination. Sickness isn't the fun type of hallucination. It's the I took too much Benadryl sort of hallucination. I once had a fever dream of group of skeleton horse riders riding horses on my stomach and chest in an eternal loop. It was less of a hallucination, but having night-long recurrent dreams of that happening throughout the night and puking every time the hooves hit my stomach. Yeah, no. When I was in Iraq, I was woken up multiple times by gunfire or an explosion. You'd think one of those instances would be the most scared I've ever woken up, but you'd be wrong. That dubious honor goes to my wife farting loud enough to make the dog bark about 2 weeks ago at 3 AM. That was, hands down, the quickest I've ever shot awake. Trying to mutter, the FCK kind of apocalypse is this? Around my heart, which had crawled up my throat and gotten a death grip on my uvula. A brick being thrown through my window by my arsehole next door neighbors at the time. I was living alone and woke up to a whispered "Hey, can you hear me?" Cue my crying freak out. Couldn't find any source of the voice, which was mostly good but also made me think I was going crazy. I eventually googled whisper of "Hey, can you hear me?" and it turns out there was an itty bitty speaker tucked into the pocket of my coat by my friend as a prank. And this was one of the random noises it makes. The sense of relief when I figured that out was amazing. And my friend who pranked me with the speaker peed his pants even I told him how I eventually discovered it. My fire alarm this morning just beeped and said fire, but it was just the humidity that triggered it apparently. A large flock of geese having a screeching match in my front yard, while the first earthquake that I could feel happened. I once dreamt a giant cat with red eyes was chasing me. Waking up from the dream, the cat was sitting under my GF's bed, staring at me. I nearly shat myself. Turns out it was the lights from the extension plug with 2 plugs on. When I was around 7 I was drifting off to sleep in bed one night. I had this toy airplane that hung from a string from the ceiling and if it has batteries it would buzz around in circles once turned on. But this didn't have batteries for a long time. I was facing away towards the wall side when I heard a loud crack like something had struck the plane. My body froze, I couldn't move, I was so scared couldn't scream to call my parents in the other room. I was frozen for what felt like a few minutes. When I could finally move my body I turned to find the plane swinging from side to side silently, no batteries, nobody else in the room. This was probably the scariest moment of my life so far. A loud bang or a voice telling me to wake up. Loud knocking wakes you up. You know you heard it clearly but it doesn't happen again, so you are awake for a long time wondering if someone is at the door but too scared to go see. The TV coming on at full volume blaring static while still waking up sounded like owl water pouring into our apartment. I was initially relieved to discover that a secret fire hose hadn't turned on somewhere. But then I was disturbed about what would have caused the TV to turn on at a volume it had never been cranked to before on static when we had working cable. Can't remember if we turned it off and on again right away, but I know it was working normally the next day. This was about 13 years ago. A rabbit screaming in the yard near my open bedroom window. It's a very human sounding scream. A few years ago at 6 AM some random night, my mom burst into me and my brother's room and says, "Your dad has just had a heart attack. Keep the dogs in here," before she proceeded to try and direct the ambulance to our house by giving directions over the phone and turning on all the lights. The hospital is a 45-minute drive from us, so getting back to sleep wasn't gonna happen. He survived and is pretty much completely back to normal now. Brr. 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 Fire. 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 Fire in the engine room. Hands to emergency stations. My first alert radio at 2 0 AM cautioning me that the NWS detected a tornado a few miles to my southwest. I was 3 years old. It was storming. I woke up to a crack of lightning. The power had gone out, so it was pitch black in my room. I rolled over towards the left side of my bed, and sitting on the corner, 3 inches from my face, was an absolutely ginormous cricket. Its beady black eyes bore into my soul. It made a cricket noise and I freaked out. And when I regained my composure, the cricket was no longer there. I'm still scarred to this day. Loud scratching noise. My cat was trying to hang on to the wall and failing. Turned out to be an earthquake. Crack house blew up less than a mile from my house when I was in middle school. Our house shook and the noise was super loud. Scared me awake as well as everyone else, and it took a bit to figure out what it was. When I was 3, I woke up and saw a massive spider web with a huge spider in it next to my bed. Turns out it was a hallucination. I sometimes get them right before sleep and right after waking. In college, my friend and I lived on campus, kind of out on the edges. Near the animal units, think lightly forested. Set back from the main road a bit. One night she knocks on my door and silently motions me to her room. Eyes wide. We slept with our windows open because of the gorgeous night weather. Outside her window we hear a high-pitched wailing. After staring at each other for a couple minutes, we stupidly decided to go out with flashlights, expecting to find a woman, injured and wailing. We found nothing, and didn't sleep soundly. But the next morning found a dead bunny. Their injured screams are strangely human, and I'll never look at a bunny the same way. My dad taking a hammer to the ceiling. Just imagine this. You are 8 years old and you wake up to your dad, a 6'6" guy with a scruffy red beard, using a hammer to destroy the f-king ceiling. My car horn going off constant at 4 AM when it was just below freezing. Didn't know what was happening, so I scrambled to get a wrench and disconnected the battery. Woke up terrified when my hair, which was tied in a bun, came undone slowly, carefully and intentionally, like someone did it. Turned around and saw shadows dancing on the wall, and when I blinked it disappeared. That room was full of nightmares.